episode 83 of the podcast. This week we're talking about the dogs when they're at home. What do their owners expect from them? What do their owners believe is going on at home, at the groomers, at the vet? And why should we be asking? Find out this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. One of the advantages of house call grooming and training in people's homes is that I have this opportunity to see the way that so many dogs behave when they're at home. And a lot of groomers don't see that, and a lot of trainers don't get to see that. A lot of veterinary staff don't get to see that. Like, what does this dog look like when they're at home? What's normal for this dog, this particular dog? Not this breed or dogs in general, but like this dog, Brock the Border Collie or Poe the Border Collie, the dog, my own dogs, right? What does this dog do at home? And I want you to be thinking about the behaviors that we see at home and the way that people interact. So here are some things I look at. Is a dog able to calm down again once he gets excited? That's one of the things I will observe when I'm in a home. What do the owners do? What do the owners do? And does it make it better, make it worse, or stay the same? Show no change, right? So I want you to think about when we've had a chance to see what owners do after many, many years of working with dogs and seeing them in their home environments. There are some trends that I see pretty commonly that can create chaos and problems for us in grooming settings, veterinary settings, and even at home with home care. And some of those things are some of the ways that owners handle behavior. So I'm always gathering clues. That's the way I see it. I see a behavior problem, and I am gathering clues about that behavior, about the problem, everything around it. And I ask owners what they do and why. Why is so important? Because so many owners are just kind of cherry picking advice from who knows where, like their neighbors, brother-in-laws, aunts, and second cousin used to breed this breed and said that they should whatever, like they're cherry picking this information. They're getting stuff from all sorts of sources. Sometimes they're getting good advice and sometimes they're getting bad advice. But if I have a dog coming in that has a behavior problem, if I start gathering my clues as to what they do, why they feel that way, then I can at least know what to be prepared for. And I can help set them on the right path. Or at least address, if it's not working, that they need to reassess. That one's kind of a tough sell sometimes. So let me repeat that for you guys. If something is not working for an individual dog, it may be poor advice for that individual, even if it works for everybody else, even if it's always worked before. It's okay to reassess, backtrack, take another look, and think, I am not seeing the change that I was hoping for, or the change that I was expecting, or any change at all. And so I need to take a look and say, what is different about this dog in this situation? So some of the things that I think owners are pretty commonly doing, let's come up with a couple of them here. Some of them are following a bunch of outdated mythology. And when I say mythology, it's things like, oh, this breed is just like this. This is the way this breed is. I'm going to say that each breed has their own high points and low points, the things that they're great at in school and the things that they have trouble with, right? My Border Collies, it took more time to teach them to not chase than it would take teach them to not follow a scent, right? But a Beagle, teaching them to not follow a scent is their hardest course in school, right? So think about every dog is a little bit different and those breeds are different, but that doesn't mean that we just let a training problem go by the wayside. I will tell you, my Border Collies do not chase things. And when they do occasionally chase something, I can call them off of it. That could be a bunny in the backyard. That could be mountain bikes. That could be a variety of anything that moves. But we spend extra time working on things if we know that that's what this particular breed has problems with. So this breed is just like this, is following some mythology. Okay. He's very dominant. Okay, here's one that I see as a myth, right? People are following this mythology, this pop culture referencing of terms that they don't really understand. Dominance is a real thing. However, it means that they're taking a leadership role in a particular situation. So what are they trying to express when an owner says their dog is dominant? Find out more. Are they using the term in any sort of a real context? Like, are they saying, when XYZ happens, my dog responds by doing these actions? Or are they making this character assessment that their dog is aggressive? Because dominance and aggression are very different things. I want you to think about dominance as during an interaction, it would be the dog who kind of stepped up to take charge, not necessarily aggressive. That could be the dog that walks up in between to do a peacekeeper kind of a like, hey, everybody nudge, nudge, pushing through. We're not getting close like that to other dogs, right? It's not an aggressive thing. So owners say things. Sometimes it's other professionals who say things too. But I want you to be thinking about like, all right, if somebody tells us, well, my dog is very dominant, we need to find out more. Gather your clues. Gather clues and find out what they mean by that. Because they could mean if he doesn't want to do something, he's going to snap at you. I want to know that ahead of time. I don't want that to be, well, I told you he was very dominant. No, I need to know if your dog is aggressive. I need to know what you're doing at home, all right? Here's another bit of mythology. This one's kind of interesting. I hear this one a lot, and people seem to think that this is pretty normal. He'll listen to so-and-so, but not anybody else. You know, like, well, okay, that is, in my opinion, from my training background point of view, that's a dog who is not completely trained yet. That's not a dog who's being moody, like a dog who's decided to just ignore people. That's a dog who has figured out one particular person makes sense, and they listen to that person, but they're not fully trained yet. That could be something that an owner just stopped at. And we see that a lot. Trainers, you guys forget that the people you see as a dog trainer are people who know they have a problem, have reached their breaking point with that problem, and are at some level ready to make a change. What we see in vet offices and in grooming shops are dogs who their owners are like, what? This is the way he is. You know, like, of course my dog's like this. They aren't necessarily thinking like, oh, he should listen to everybody in the house. They've been carrying on like this for a long time. They're like, what? He listens to me. So, you know, as long as he doesn't hurt anybody, you know, as long as he listens to one of us, which most of us in the dog training world anyway would be like, no, my dog has to listen to everybody. So be thinking about the average owner thinks that that's pretty normal. They just believe that that's the way dogs are. They don't know yet that your dog should be able to listen to everybody in your house. Maybe not every Tom, Dick, and Harry and stranger. Like, I've never passed nail trimmers to the mailman and said, do you mind just teaching him that you can trim his nails too? Like, that's not appropriate. But I'll tell you what, my dogs would let him. You know, but I want you to think about that people don't necessarily know much about dog training. And they've been following along with rules and ideas that maybe are really outdated or that are from somebody else or involve some of these myths out there like, oh, well, this breed is just like that, you know. And here's another one. Here's one that I hear pretty commonly, and trainers listen because this is super important. If you are teaching any sort of cooperative care, I want you to take this in. It is really common for an owner to tell me, why would I ever try to take something away from my dog while he's chewing at it? He's a dog. Of course he would bite me. Ponder that for a minute, right? Not only are they sure that their dog would bite them if they ever tried to touch something while he was eating or touch him while he was eating, like that, they're not even sure because they've never tried it. That to me is a big worry spot. Like, I don't want to deal with that problem by accident. And I want you to think about how often groomers are being told, oh, you have to have this thing and they can lick some peanut butter while you're doing their nails, not knowing that this dog has never been touched by someone while he's eating. Total wild card. We have no idea what that dog is going to do. Because this owner is like, you don't touch a dog who's eaten. And all right, so to some extent, that is really wise advice. And that's what we tell children. But as dog owners, the adult in the family, you guys need to be ahead of the curve there. You can't follow the rules you had as children. Like, oh, leave a dog alone if he's eating. As adults who own a dog, you shouldn't be harassing them while they're eating. You shouldn't be taking their food away 4 million times or constantly touching their bowl, but you should be able to know that your dog will be safe if he is eating something and you reach over and either have to take it away or add to it or touch him. But before we start telling groomers and vet techs and people that you need to, have him licking peanut butter or add treats to something to get his nails done, we need to know if this dog is even used to having somebody touch him. Is he used to having somebody touch him when he eats? I don't know. Many, many, many dogs have never experienced that. And because of that, we don't know what they're going to do. And we don't know what kind of bite inhibition they have because no one's ever tried that with them. So I want you guys to be thinking that we have to gather clues about what these dogs are like at home. What is this dog used to? What does this dog think people do? Because the jobs that we have as groomers and as veterinary staff and really any other dog pro who has to get in up close and do something physical handling, we have to think about what is this dog been exposed to? What kind of rules has this dog lived under? What kind of culture is he coming from? And every household has its own little culture, right? That's pretty common for us to have our own little culture within our own house. My dogs live under particular rules. In someone else's house, they might be considered kind of spoiled. In another person's house, they might be thinking that, wow, these poor dogs never get to have any fun. Like there are extremes everywhere. But we have to gather clues. And by working in people's homes, wow, I have seen some crazy, crazy stuff. And I think that the more we think about that, like what happens at home, the more we can help nail down what we need to do, what kind of teaching we need to do, both for dogs and for people. If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes and tell all of your friends. Another reason why we need to know more about the way dogs behave at home is because we're trying to assess calm, comfortable, and cooperative. And sometimes I find that dogs that are really prancy-dancy, who are constantly moving around, are seen as stressed. And they are not always stressed. A lot of dogs are like that at home. If they are not physically asleep or napping, like their default setting is to be constantly in motion. Tap, 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 spin, 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 panting, 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 right? Like a lot of dogs are like that at home. So if you have a dog on a table, for instance, let's say you're on a grooming table and this dog is panting and spinning and tap dancing on your table, we have to know if that is stress or not. And certainly it's not what we want. What we want is a dog who's much calmer than that. So they are getting themselves worked up. And we have to worry about things like, are they going to overheat? Things like that, like what's happening. But how do we assess if this dog is stressed or if this dog is untrained? And this dog is just displaying the amount of activity that they generally display. One of the ways that I assess that is I get my hand on them. Get my hand on them and feel for things like, is this dog stiff or loose in my hand? Right? If they're wiggling around and stuff, but they're not actually trying to wiggle away from me, that they're allowing my hand to gently guide them, and they're trying really hard to just be gently guided by it, that tells me that's a dog who is not necessarily stressed out, maybe overstimulated, or maybe just in their own prancy-dancy, I've never held still for a moment in my life, never met an impulse I didn't like, but to have that feeling of, okay, this dog is loose. This body language is loose. He's just in constant motion. And how can I lessen that constant motion? Right? But not necessarily a dog that I would say, we need to send this dog home and talk to the owners about doing some work to prepare him better for grooming. Because there are plenty of dogs that are just prancy-dancy. And sometimes the only place in their world where they have to hold still is with the groomer and the vet visits. Sometimes that's the only place where they're going to have to know it. And sometimes they just learn it with us. It's ideal if they learn how to do that at home too. So we should be sending people home with the idea that, hey, this is something fun to work with. This is something fun to work on. But I want you to think about feeling if he's loose. If a dog is stiff and prancing and dancing, right? If they're constantly putting pressure on the grooming loop or on a leash or against a person who's holding them, if they're constantly trying to move away from people, that to me is the stress. Not necessarily just the fact that they're active and they're moving around. So be thinking about that. Now, active and moving around, like I said, has some problems with it. First of all, especially like the brachiocephalic breeds, the ones with the really, really short noses, I'm thinking like your pugs and stuff like that, they can start getting really overheated. They're panting and they're getting themselves all worked up. And dogs who aren't used to being all worked up, now they're exhausted and all worked up, and they still don't know how to be calm. They're still, it's not like they learned how to be calm. They need to learn that too. But I want you to be thinking about, it's different than a stress response if that's their baseline normal. And that's why I was talking about things that we should be finding out about ahead of time. Because if that dog is always like that at home, should we really expect him to be able to be still, calm, and quiet on the table? Not really. He needs to learn more. Now, a dog who's really, really active, that doesn't mean they can't learn to be calm. And I can tell you, I have 2 border collies, and they love seeing people and saying hi to their vet, and everybody works at the vet's office, and oh my God, I love my vet, and I love this new person, and everybody's my friend, and they're super, super excited, right? And I actually allow a lot of that because I would rather have my dogs think that everybody at the vet's office is their best buddy. And because my vet's office, they would rather me not ask my dogs to sit and stuff unless they're working on something in particular, because they want to play with the dogs. They don't care if my dogs jump. They encourage them to jump, even though I'm like, oh, I don't want them encouraged to jump. But you know what? This is part of how they want the dogs to behave for them. So I let them have their crazy greeting, the silly, silly, over-the-top stuff. And I just sit there thinking, oh my God, this new veterinary technician that she just hired probably thinks I'm a crap trainer. She probably thinks I'm out of my mind until it comes time to, okay, so now we need to do something, and that's when I tell my dogs, all right, here, still, and just talk them through whatever it is we need to do. My super, super active, young, athletic border collies can chill out entirely and let someone slowly do nice loose body, range of motion, run their legs through range of motion, open their mouth, look in their ears, draw blood, take temperatures, listen to their heart, all of those things. They can slow it on down. And then when we're through, if we tell them, nice job, you're off. They go right back to being crazy. Like, woohoo, that was so much fun, Like being able to switch gears is an important life skill. So when we talk to our owners, one of the things that we need to have in our mind as professionals is that it is possible to teach even the most active of dogs to be calm when we need them to be calm, right? We don't need to break their hearts. We don't need to, do anything terrible. We just need to this is time to be still. Playtime will happen. It always happens. Playtime will happen later. And then give them playtime. Teach them how to switch gears, how to go from being calm to crazy, to calm, to crazy. And that's one of the things I do with every training customer I work with. And sometimes they're like, I thought we were going to work on just, the barking at other dogs thing, but there was so much more involved. And they're usually really happy with it. They're like, there's so much more involved with teaching them how to listen and how to follow instructions and how to calm down and how to rev up. It's okay to teach your dog how to rev up. Teach them how to rev up so that you can also teach them how to calm down. The two sides of the coin, right? So when we talk about the way owners interact with their dogs, we need to kind of take a look. Has this dog ever been taught to be calm? Have they ever said, hey, let's chill out for a minute here. I need to check your eye, right? I mean, anybody who has their hands on my dogs should be able to say, oh, what's that? Let me take a look and calm them down again and take a look, right? That's important for any dog to know. And when we express it to our owners that, yeah, start working on that, right? So how can they work on that? Here comes our little bit of, we need to educate our owners. And if you're a groomer or a veterinary technician who really doesn't have the confidence in saying, hey, you should try XYZ, that's okay. That's great. We should all stay in our lane. We should all stay at the point that we feel comfortable in. You should say, hey, here is a trainer that I would like to send you to. This is a concern of mine, and I'd like to have you talk to a trainer about it, right? That's okay. That's sort of like if I look at an ear that I'm worried about and I say, I'd like you to, have the veterinarian take a look at this ear, probably, tomorrow if you can. This looks sore, this looks red, this looks swollen, right? I'm not going to diagnose what's going on with an ear, because owners need to go to the professional who does that. So if you're not comfortable telling owners how to help teach their dog to be calm and switch gears from being calm to silly to calm to silly, that's okay. Send them to someone who does that, right? If you're a trainer and you don't really know how to teach a dog to be good for being on a grooming table, you know what? Talk to groomers and find out what they need. We just need to work together and stay in our lane and think about how our owners need us to work together, right? Take a look at that dog and think about, what is he like at home? What's he like at home? Find out some of those most basic things. And like I said, it is such an advantage. Oh, it is such an advantage to have been doing house call for so long. And doing training in people's homes for such a long time, because I see stuff. When I first started, doing the whole house call stuff, man, I had no idea some of the stuff was going to come up. I would look and I would like, who would ever let their dog do that? Or who would think that that's okay? But crazy things happen. People live with their dogs in ways that are very different from the way you live with your dog, or maybe I live with my dog, and that's all right, as long as we're going into this knowing that some dogs are going to be crazy and silly and not know how to calm down because that's the way they are at home. Or they never, ever, ever have anybody do something to them that they don't want to do. That's a pretty common one too. People are like, oh no, we touch his feet. He has no reason to be afraid of his feet because we touch his feet, and anytime he wants us to let go, we just let go. He has no reason to be afraid of that. And I'm like, except that you've never held his foot longer than he wanted you to. So what happens if we do? What happens if I don't let go the very first minute he squeaks or he puts his teeth on me? You guys let go every time he puts his teeth on you. What is happening? Why is he putting his teeth on you? What is going on, right? And you look at some of the things that happen at home. This is why taking a history and talking to people is so important. Before we go ahead and just decide this dog is stressed, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You know, this dog is anxious, this dog is having a terrible time. Maybe this dog is having a fantastic time, thinks that everything is great, just being super bouncy, wiggly, and spinning. Before we go adding food to try to help a dog be calm about something or distract them from something, to find out that they're wildly food aggressive, right? We need to be thinking about this stuff, and we need to think about, trainers especially, we need to think about the settings that we're working in, that many, many groomers don't get a chance to take a history. Sometimes someone else is letting dogs in for them. They don't even get a chance to talk to the owners until maybe pickup. They have grooming instructions, haircut instructions, but nothing more, right? So when you're a trainer and you're trying to come up with solutions, you need to think about that. Because some of the training advice that we hear is really dangerous. Not something I would want to try unless I knew the dog very, very well. So knowing what dogs are like at home and what the owners do and how it works, like what kind of things are happening at home. Think about it almost like listening to any of our friends who might be teachers. I don't know if any of you have friends who are elementary school teachers, but ask an elementary school teacher, like about the students. They're going to say things like, well, I'm kind of wondering what happens at home. Right? Like which parents make sure that the kid does homework and which parents don't care if the kid does their homework, right? The kid that never, ever, ever has to sit still at home and learns it in kindergarten, maybe learns it, right? So be thinking about the environment that we're working in is so very different than what they have at home. So it's important for us to talk to our owners like your people. I love the owners. You know what? They pay the bills. They're the people who own the dog. I need to have a relationship with them. I need to help them understand what things are in their best interest. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.